Tell you something, being a man ain't no joke.
Toxic masculinity.
Bullying.
The Me Too movement against sex.
Hello, welcome to A Christian Male Perspective. My name is Andre, and this channel is dedicated to helping men move and operate in this modern world from a Christian perspective. Please like the video and leave a comment. I will get back to it at my earliest convenience. Also, please subscribe. You guys know how the YouTube algorithm works. This helps to push content out to men in the YouTube world. Today, we're going to continue our endeavor in the classic series. We've already talked about confidence and leadership. Today, we're going to talk about assertiveness. All right, guys, here we go. All right, guys. So as always, we start with our definitions. And for assertive, we go to good old-fashioned Merriam-Webster. And it says, assertive is characterized by bold or confident statements and behavior. Now, we know what confidence is because we talked about that before. By bold, it means fearless before danger and showing or requiring a fearless, daring spirit. Now, I don't think they mean fearless in the sense of no fear, but fearless in the sense of in spite of your fear, you're going to behave and you're going to speak accordingly in spite of your fear. So boldness and assertiveness go hand in hand. Confidence and assertiveness go hand in hand. And one of the ways you can deal with that, guys, is by being more self-aware. Now, in order to be more assertive, you must have a greater sense of self-awareness. And by self-awareness, I mean having confidence in knowing yourself, your principles, your values, and your boundaries. Knowing what you want and the paths you're willing to take to get there. And the barriers you're not willing to cross is important for you to understand about yourself. And the reason why it is, guys, is because you want to know what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do in order to accomplish your goals. Now, if you want to develop greater self-awareness, you must spend time in self-reflection and self-exploration. This will better help you understand your core principles, your core values, and your boundaries. This also will help you get a better sense of what your personal beliefs are, those things that you truly believe in your heart of hearts. Now, this also goes hand in hand with developing a vision and goals. Now, in a previous episode on leadership, we discussed the importance of having a vision and developing goals for your life. This is also important when you're leading others. Without a vision or goals, guys, you as a man are simply responding to life's shifts and swings around you. You know what I mean? So this is what I'm talking about. You're just riding the wave wherever life takes you. Unfortunately, many men end up in a place they don't want to be. Now, God wants to work with us in fulfilling his will in our life. That is one of the reasons I believe in the Lord's Prayer in Matthew 6 and 10. Jesus said, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So if you lack a God-centered vision, then talk with God, seek God about it, and he will give you the wisdom and the direction that you need. One of my favorite verses is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will direct your paths. So by trusting in God and leaning on his understanding and not our own, we can develop a God-centered vision and God-centered goals. And that will help put us on a path. And that will help with us gain a sense of self-awareness about who we are and where we're going. You can also read James 1 and 5, which talks more about wisdom, and Proverbs 16:9, which talks about more about God directing your steps. Now, if you have a vision and some goals you are working to conquer, it can give you motivation and give your life a sense of purpose. Now, with that purpose, you know what you want to accomplish and what boundaries you're willing to go to get there. Now, this is important when it comes to being assertive and self-aware. It is unfair, in my opinion, to ask others to guess what you want or to guess how you're feeling. If you have a clear understanding of what you're working to accomplish, then you can be more intentional and direct in how you communicate with others, how you handle relationships, and how you make decisions regarding your life. But this is going to be very difficult if you don't know what you want, having a vision, or what lines you're not willing to cross, your boundaries. Now, this leads directly into our next topic, which is about being direct. Now, directness is about how we communicate with others. When you're direct, you're confidently explaining how you feel and what you want without beating around the bush or disrespecting other people. Now, being direct can be confused by many people as speaking rudely or aggressively. And I believe that's because much of society today is focused on being politically correct, not offending people. Now, some people think speaking straightforward about how you feel or what you want will offend people. I don't think so. I believe being direct is not about over talking someone or dismissing other people in their opinion. In fact, in Colossians 4 and 6, the Apostle Paul says, "Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone." Now, if you hear that, that's not talking about being rude or disrespectful in any way, but it's about being confident in what you want and speaking what you want. Now, it says, in order to be confident, in order to be direct, I think you have to be an active listener. And what I mean is that you have to take in what other people are saying and what they're feeling. James 1 and 19 says it like this: "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." So being assertive and being direct means that you're listening to other people to understand their point of view without devaluing their opinion or themselves. You want to acknowledge another person's thoughts and feelings, even if you strongly disagree with them. Now, this is important because being direct is not about aggressively putting people down. It's not trying to make yourself feel better by diminishing someone else. But it is about clearly communicating what you're thinking and what you're feeling to others. Being direct is never insulting, demeaning, or threatening to another person. If you catch yourself doing that, guys, go apologize immediately, and then go do some self-reflection to figure out why you felt that way or why you responded that way. So, if you're struggling with communicating directly with someone, you need to look to see whether the problem is with you or with them. Now, whenever you're trying to communicate with someone and tell them how you feel or tell them what you want, if their immediate response is to get loud or to be insulting, then you may be in a toxic situation. You may be in a toxic relationship, and you want to consider if it's something you want to continue. I'm not a therapist. I'm not telling you to leave, but if someone's immediate response to you telling them how you feel or what you want is to be rude, or to be loud, to be dismissive, then yeah, you may be in a toxic situation, and you may want to reconsider that situation, reconsider that relationship. Now, on the other hand, if someone is inviting you and they're not being disrespectful, they're not being rude, but you have a fear, a sense of self-doubt, a fear of rejection, or a sense of self-doubt about speaking up about what you want or how you feel, then start looking at opportunities where you can be assertive, where you can be direct. And this is not an overnight thing, guys. This is something even I work on daily. Any of these part of the classic series is not overnight. These are things that we're continually working towards day by day. And many times you start with the little things, even with about being direct. If you've been, kind of soft-spoken, start with the little things. And we'll talk about that a little more here at the end about some ideas and some little things to talk about. But when it comes to being direct, one of the key components is being honest. So without honesty, people cannot take what you say seriously. And so why do you say that, Andre? Because If you are known to lie or stretch the truth, then when you try to be assertive, when you try to be direct about what you want, about how you feel, people cannot take what you say in good faith. As a Christian man, God calls us to be honest with ourselves, with Him, and with others. In Colossians 3 and 9, we are told not to lie to each other. In Ephesians 4 and 25, we're instructed to speak truthfully to each other. So if you speak honestly, people will be more likely to listen to what you say and consider what you're saying. And this is even more importantly because when you speak it honestly, you need to ask for something that is reasonable and that is part of genuinely how you feel or what you want. Honesty is an important characteristic in any person, but especially for someone claiming the name of Jesus Christ. Think about it, guys. If you know someone has a habit of lying and they come to you saying this is how they feel or this is what they want, how likely are you to consider their feelings or how likely are you to give them what they want? You can't trust them. So what that means is that honesty allows us to have conversations on what I call a level playing field. What I mean is that if two people are having a conversation and one person has to question the truthfulness of the other person, how can that person have a meaningful dialogue with them without hesitating and wondering, if I respond to this, is this their true feeling or their true motivations? Should I put myself out there by what I want and what I feel if I can't trust what they say is what they want and they feel? You see what I'm saying about not being on a level playing field? So if people can approach conversations with truthfulness, then everybody involved can be on the same page and can be direct and assertive about what they want, and they can accept that those feelings from the other person are genuine and that how they can respond will be to a genuine feeling and genuine desire. And it takes away hesitation and fear in conversations. Now, I know being honest can be difficult sometimes because you have to bare your true feelings and what you really want. But in the long run, I believe this is the best course in almost all situations to express how you feel. Now, with that being said, there's also the flip side of being assertive, and that is being passive. And by passiveness, that leads towards resentment. Well, why do you say that, Andre? Many times we're passive in how we speak and how we act. And I believe most men want to avoid conflict and confrontations in their life. Most men just want to be peaceful. Let's be honest, guys. Sometimes we know it is just simpler and easier to not say how you feel or what you want because you are 99.9% certain that it's going to lead to an argument with the other person. By doing that, we end up pushing down our feelings and our emotions and bury them inside. Now, this is what leads to resentment. And resentment is like a hidden illness. You don't know it's there. You don't notice it, but the longer it stays there, the more it festers and the more it grows. And at some point, if it's not dealt with, it's going to blow up and ruin your relationships. It's going to blow up and it's going to cause all type of trouble for you. Many times more trouble than dealing with the conflict in the beginning. Guys, many times we keep quiet about things that bother us because it simply keeps the peace. But those feelings of disrespect, which is really important to men, and those unmet expectations will eventually boil over if they're not discussed and dealt with. Personally, this is something I'm trying to work on daily. Now, I'm not saying everything someone says to you should be challenged or that you should always get what you want. We know life is not like that. We know life is built on compromise. So pick and choose your battles wisely. The writer of Proverbs put it like this in 17 and 14. Starting a quarrel is like breaching a dam. That means it opens up the floodgates when you start a fight. So drop the matter before a dispute breaks out. So one of the rules that I use when I'm trying to discuss things, whether it's with my wife or with my children or with anyone else, is does it affect our me and my wife's vision? Does it affect our goals? Does it go against my personal beliefs, my principles and values? Does it overtake a boundary that I have set up in my life? Or does it harm my well-being? If I don't get this, if doesn't happen this way, I'm going to feel an intense sense of resentment and anger. If it doesn't generally fall in one of those categories, then for me it is a good candidate to just let it go. Now, I'm going to talk about an example of a discussion that my wife and I had. And I think this is a good example of both of us being assertive and direct in what we want, but yet finding compromise. Both of us putting options out there and coming to an agreement. So me and my wife was working on our budget, our monthly budget. And we do this at the end of the month, going into the next month. Now, we have visions and goals that we have together. And my wife wanted more money to go one place, and I wanted more money to go to another place. Well, we were trying to discuss proportions and how much it go because we know there's certain goals that we want to accomplish, but given where we were trying to decide how best to get there. So I explained what I was feeling, my wife explained what you're feeling, and it took us about 45 minutes to kind of work out the details. But because we both was talking about what we wanted, we eventually got there. Now we did that so that we didn't have any more resentment. And the next day, even we came back and discussed it even more because we didn't want any resentment built up about what we were thinking or why we were thinking. Now we both knew we had our best interests at heart, but sometimes it takes a while to get your thoughts out because you're thinking about things in the back of your head. But it's good to get them out so that there's no resentment, there's no uneasiness that's built up in the relationship. And the next day we were able to come do that, and it turned out good. But by both of us being able to kind of say what we want and work through those feelings and emotions, we avoided that resentment, and we were able to speak on our mind about what was important to us. Now, many times people will confuse assertiveness with aggressiveness, and I want to just dispel that they are not the same. And here may be some key differences. Someone who is assertive is an active listener. And by this, I mean you can tell by the body language, by the way they're showing interest, they're actually listening to hear what the other person is saying. They're not just sitting waiting there to jump in, if you will. People that I've seen that tend to be aggressive, they tend to interrupt a lot, and they tend to not show any interest in what the other person is saying. And likewise, someone who is assertive will give space for other people's and their thoughts and their opinions, even if they disagree. People that tend to be aggressive tend to be over talkers. They tend to, like I say, interrupt, but not even interrupt. They tend to get loud and they tend to be dismissive and jump in to try to make a point, if you will. And that kind of leads to the next topic about keeping calm. When you're working on being assertive, when you're trying to be assertive, keep your calm because you're trying to communicate what you want, why it's important to you. People that tend to be aggressive tend to get angry. They tend to be more of an attack dog mode. And I'm sure you guys have met people like that. Being assertive, you want to be clear and direct in your communications. What you're feeling, what you want, why it's important to you. And that why it's important to you is very important. And I say important multiple times, but it's very important because many times just saying what you want or saying how you feel without explaining why you feel that way or why you want something leaves out information for the other person. That is very important when you're communicating. Many times when people are aggressive, they're just focused on winning the conversation. They're not really hearing what the other person is saying. They're trying to overtalk and they're just trying to win. And I've been in this world long enough to know that many times you may win the conversation, but lose the war in the end. Last but not least, people that are working on being assertive and trying to speak assertively, they're honest and genuine in how they're feeling. They're honest and genuine in what they're saying and how they're behaving. Many times, people that are aggressive, they tend to focus on winning the argument, winning the discussion. And many times they may end up being manipulative, dishonest, or passive aggressive, which to me is the worst because that's almost the exact opposite of being direct and being assertive. And you hear people says, like snide remarks or underhand remark. That is something I truly don't like. That's one of my pet peeves. Is tell me how I rather you tell me how you feel and we let us hash it out, but don't go behind my back or don't say one thing and then mean something else. And I give you an example that again I talked about me and my wife. We ended up going through a budget and we had to work through the details. We came to an agreement. Okay, this is how we're going to do things. In the process of coming through that agreement, we had a compromise. Now we have to both stick to that compromise. One person can't go back without having a discussion and explaining why they feel there's a change that's needed. And you got to have some emotional integrity when you're speaking honestly, you're being genuine, and you and someone else they come to an agreement, you come to a compromise. You have to have emotional integrity and stick to what you say. Now, last but not least, let's get to some tips on ways that you can be more assertive. Here we go. All right, guys. Tip number one. If you're lacking a vision and lacking goals in your life, go to God. Ask God. And God will give you that vision. He will give you that understanding of where you need to be in your life and what you need to be doing in your life. And I go back again to Proverbs 16:9, and it says, a man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. God will direct your steps. He will help you understand where you need to go and how you need to get there. Second, work on defining your principles and understanding what your boundaries are, what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. And that goes hand in hand with getting that vision and those goals for your life. Step three, pray for honesty. If you're prone to stretch the truth, pray for honesty. And God will help you to be more direct and more honest about how you feel and what you want. And likewise, if you're prone to get a hot head, to get angry, when you're speaking, you get overly emotional. Ask God to give you a calm spirit. And remember, one of the things about being assertive is being able to keep calm. So ask God if you tend to get emotional, you tend to get overheated, if you will. Ask God to give you a calm demeanor and calm peace. When it comes to speaking, when it comes to communicating and dealing with relationships. Next, start with the little things. If you have not really been assertive in your life, start small. If you're with a group of friends or you're with your spouse and they say, what do you want to go for dinner? Or what movie do you want to watch? If you've been one who's never really said anything, and if it's important to you, give you just a couple of examples, then use these small moments to practice speaking up, to being calm, but being direct in what you want and what you, well, example, babe, I really would like to eat Mexican tonight. And really, when it comes to direct communication, using the I statement is important. I feel, I need, I want. And you can practice those by working on the small things. Next, we talked about this before. Sometimes you can win the battles but lose the wars. So pick and choose your battles wisely. And one thing you have to really think about, again, I'm not trying to say push it down and build up resentment, but think about, is the conflict worth it? Is it important to you? Does it affect the vision and your goal? Does it compromise your values? Does it go past your boundaries? Again, if it doesn't do those things, you have to decide on, are you going to feel resentful about this later in life? Is this something you're really going to resent the other person for if it doesn't come this way, you can't find a reasonable compromise? And this leads into the next point, provide options. Many times when you're being direct, it's not just about you getting what you want. Remember, being assertive is also about listening to the needs of other people, but and again, communicating what you want. Many times it may not necessarily be one way. It has to be one way. It doesn't have to be your way or their way. Expressing what you want is not saying it has to be this way. But what it is saying is that this is what I want. Hear what I want. Can we come to a compromise? I may not get all of what I want. You may not get all of what you want. But can we come to a compromise where we're both satisfied and we both can move forward in the relationship or in the situation? Again, example with me and my wife. She wanted things one way, I wanted things another way. And we both had valid reasons of why that was the case. And they still fit within our vision and goals. It was just two different ways to get there. So we, again, came to a compromise. It didn't have to be my way. It didn't have to be her way. We came to a compromise. And again, we both are going to maintain emotional integrity and stick to that compromise. And I think that's important because it's not a black and white. It's not my way or the highway when it comes to being assertive. But what you are doing is explaining how you feel and why things are important to you. All right, guys. So this is Assertive in the Classic Series. I pray this was helpful to you. Again, please subscribe to the channel. And this is Andre with a Christian male perspective. Stay sharp, guys. Thank you for watching today's video. Please like it, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. You can follow us on social media at A Christian Male Perspective. Stay sharp, fellas.